At the edge of human space, the stars seemed calm, cold, endless, and quiet, like they had always been. For years, traders and travelers had passed along the outer rim without trouble. To most of the galaxy, this was nothing more than an empty border. But to humans, it was a sacred line. No one was allowed to cross it without permission. That night, the silence of the rim broke. At first, it was only a ripple on long-range scanners. A shadow, faint but sharp. Then another, and another, until the ripple became a wave, dozens of warships sliding out of deep space. Their hulls swallowed the starlight. Their engines burned low and hidden. They were moving like predators, silent and sure. But someone was watching. Humans always watched. On the listening post above the frozen moon of Uriali, alarms began to glow. Red lights painted the steel walls, and screens filled with alien symbols. Operators froze for only a heartbeat before training took over. Fingers moved across consoles. Voices called out codes. Unidentified fleet entering Sector 9. No transponders. No clearance. Crossing into human space. The commander of the post, a man with weathered eyes, leaned over the main display. He didn't shout. He didn't panic. His voice was as calm as the cold stars outside. Send the signal to Central. Mark them intruders. And then, stay quiet. The order echoed across the room. No weapons were raised. No fighters launched. The humans simply watched. Out in the void, the alien fleet pressed forward. Their ships were heavy, armed with cannons that glowed faint red. Inside their bridges, alien captains sneered. To them, human warnings were nothing. They had heard stories of Earth, yes, but stories could be twisted. In their minds, humans were young, loud, and fragile. They thought human space was a wall of paper, waiting to be torn. By dawn, one alien captain laughed. We will carve our mark into this little frontier. But what they didn't know was that the frontier was not paper. It was steel hidden beneath silence. Across the asteroid belt nearby, a single human dreadnought waited. It had been there for weeks, its engines dead, its hull as black as the void. To any scanner, it looked like just another frozen rock drifting in orbit. But inside, hundreds of humans sat ready, their hands steady over silent consoles. The captain of the dreadnought stood before the central display. His uniform was plain, his eyes steady. He had been told one thing many years ago, and he had never forgotten it. No one enters human space uninvited. Contact, whispered his tactical officer. Unknown fleet has crossed the border. The captain nodded slowly. He did not raise his voice. Then they are no longer unknown. They are intruders. He gave a signal. A simple flick of his hand. Communications lit up. Across the stars, a message pulsed, repeated again and again, in every language the galaxy knew. Attention, you are in human space without permission. Leave now, or this will be your last journey. The words spread like a cold wind across the void. On the alien ships, silence followed. For the first time since their entry, the laughter stopped. Some captains frowned, others chuckled, but none ignored it. They had been warned. One commander bared his fangs in anger. One ship dares to threaten us? Crush them. Show these humans what power means. The alien fleet pushed forward, faster now, their weapons charging. They thought they were hunters chasing weak prey. They didn't realize the prey was only waiting for them to step closer. Inside the human dreadnought, the crew didn't flinch. They didn't argue. They knew what was coming. Above them, hidden in the darkness, more ships waited. Hundreds of them. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, all cloaked in silence. The aliens could not see them, could not sense them. The trap was already closed. But the humans did not fire. Not yet. They were patient. They wanted the invaders to walk deeper, to feel safe for just one more moment. Then, when the silence broke, it would break forever. Back on the listening post, the commander of Uriali looked at the drifting fleet and whispered to himself, "They think they've entered our house, but they don't know the walls are alive. They don't know the ground beneath their feet is waiting to burn." The alien ships moved further in. Their arrogance blinded them. They saw only stars and darkness, not the eyes watching from every shadow. The human captain raised his hand one final time. "Record this," he said softly. "For history." His eyes never left the display. "Mark them as what they are, trespassers, and prepare the message for Central Command. Their journey ends here." In the silence of space, no guns had fired yet. No ship had fallen. But everyone, human and alien alike, could feel the storm pressing closer. And as the fleet pushed further into forbidden space, the truth hung heavy in the air. No one enters human space uninvited, unless they are asking for their last journey. Long before the alien fleet crossed into human space, whispers had already reached the Galactic Council. The council sat at the heart of the galaxy, a shining station that drifted between suns like a crown of steel. Every empire, every great species had a seat there. Their voices rose daily in debates that stretched for hours, sometimes days. But whenever the topic of humans came up, the room always grew uneasy. "Humans are too aggressive," one reptilian delegate hissed, his scales flashing green. "They expand too quickly," muttered a winged envoy, her feathers trembling. "They are unpredictable," whispered a creature made of mist. Yet no one denied one truth: humans were dangerous. The council had seen the reports. They had watched the records of wars where humans fought with frightening resolve. They had heard testimonies from traitors who barely escaped human retaliation after crossing borders without permission. And still, some laughed, calling the humans arrogant for claiming territory so fiercely. When news reached the council that another alien empire had decided to test human space, the chamber filled with silence. The speaker of the council, a tall, ancient being with eyes like glass, lifted his staff and spoke in a voice that echoed across the hall. "They are warned. Entering human space uninvited is not conquest, it is suicide." Some delegates nodded. They had seen too much already. Others scoffed. One proud ambassador from a warlike empire slammed his fist onto the table. "Humans bluff. They are loud, but they are few. My people do not fear them." At that, an old voice rose from the shadows of the chamber. It belonged to a counselor who had lived long enough to see entire empires rise and fall. His skin was pale and marked with scars. His eyes were tired, but they carried a weight that silenced the chamber. "You are wrong," he said simply. "I was there. I saw what they did on Helios Prime. An armada entered their system without asking. Not a single intruder returned. Not one." The words spread like a ripple through the chamber. Silence fell heavier than stone. The council did not move against the invaders who had just crossed into human space. They did not send ships. They did not interfere. They knew it would not matter. Humans would answer for themselves. They always did. Still, in private, many counselors sent secret warnings to their governments. Do not interfere with human borders. Do not follow the intruders. Keep your fleets far away. Do not even watch too closely, for even watching could sometimes be mistaken as crossing the line. Meanwhile, on distant worlds across the galaxy, common people gossiped about the warnings. In bars, marketplaces, and dark alleys, the same question whispered on every tongue. Why do humans guard their borders so fiercely? Some said humans were protecting technology no one else had seen. Others claimed their space hid a secret weapon. A few whispered an even darker story, that humans did not simply defend space. They hunted those who entered it. No one knew the truth. Not fully, but everyone knew the warning. Do not enter human space uninvited. Yet the invaders ignored it. Pride made them blind. Their leaders thought the council exaggerated, that the stories were only fear-mongering. Humans are mortals. One of their admirals declared, "Flesh and bone, like all of us. If they bleed, they can be broken." But those who had truly seen humans fight knew the deeper truth. Humans bled, yes, but when they bled, they became unstoppable. Back in the council chamber, the debate raged on. Some demanded the council send a message of peace to humans. Others wanted to send mediators to the invading fleet. But the old scarred counselor shook his head slowly. "They will not listen," he said. "The humans will not accept mediators. The intruders made their choice the moment they crossed that border. It is already too late." And across the galaxy, in the shadows of human dreadnoughts, the truth of his words waited to be revealed. The council adjourned for the night, but unease lingered. Ambassadors sat in silence, staring at the stars beyond the glass walls of the chamber. They knew what was coming. They had seen it before. Soon, fire would rise on the edge of human space. Soon, another empire would learn the cost of ignoring the warning. And when dawn touched the council station, a single report would arrive, brief and final. The intruders entered. Their journey is over. The alien fleet had crossed deeper into human space now. Their ships glided through the void like black knives. Inside their bridges, the commanders laughed, confident that humans were too weak to stop them. They believed the warnings of the council were just empty threats, old stories meant to scare children. One alien captain, his skin shining like polished stone, raised his clawed hand and declared, "This border is ours now. Humans will kneel before us, or they will vanish." His crew roared with approval. But in the silence of space, a voice answered, came suddenly through every channel in every tongue the galaxy knew. "Calm, cold, human, you are trespassing in human space. Leave now, or face your last journey." The bridge of the alien flagship fell silent. For a moment, no one moved. The commander sneered, showing his fangs. "One ship dares to threaten us?" he growled. "Find them. Destroy them." Scanners lit up, and soon they found it. A single human dreadnought floating ahead, black as the void. It moved with no rush, no panic. Just calm presence, as though it had been waiting for this moment. The alien fleet erupted in laughter. Dozens of ships against one. To them, the fight was already won. "Transmit!" the alien commander ordered. His voice boomed across the void. "Humans, you stand before the fleet of the Zorkai Dominion. We claim this sector. Surrender your ships and your worlds, or be erased from the stars." For a long moment, there was silence. Then the human reply came, short, cold, and sharp as steel. "You should not have come here." The words were simple, but the way they were spoken sent a chill down spines. Some of the alien crew shifted uneasily. They had heard stories of humans, yes, but stories were easy to laugh at. This was different. Still, pride is heavier than fear. The commander raised his hand. "Arm weapons. Lock onto the human vessel." Energy pulsed across the alien fleet. Dozens of cannons came alive, glowing like suns. Torpedoes loaded into tubes. Crews prepared to fire. Inside the human dreadnought, however, no one rushed. The bridge was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of machines. Officers moved with steady discipline, their eyes locked on screens. The captain stood tall at the center, hands behind his back, his face calm. "Sir," whispered his officer, "they are arming weapons." The captain nodded once. His reply was steady. "And so they've chosen." At that moment, alien scanners began to fail. Static filled their screens. Radar blinked out. Shadows moved at the edge of their vision, but no shapes appeared. Panic flickered in their voices. "Systems failing. Cannot get full reading. Something is blocking our scans." And then they saw it. One by one, massive shapes emerged from the darkness. First 2, then 10, then 50, then more. Human warships uncloaked, their black hulls catching the faint starlight. An entire fleet surrounded the intruders, hidden until now, silent as ghosts. The alien bridge fell quiet. Their commander stared in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered. The human captain's voice returned, echoing through every ship. "You were warned. No one enters human space uninvited. Leave, or be ended." Fear gripped some of the alien crews. They had never seen such silence, such control. The humans did not shout. They did not boast. They simply stood ready, weapons locked, calm as executioners. The alien commander, burning with pride, tried to roar back. "Fire! Fire on them now!" But before his order could echo, a single human ship moved forward. It was not fast. It was not loud. But the power it carried was undeniable. Its cannons opened, and a beam of white light cut through the dark. One alien cruiser vanished in a storm of fire, torn apart in seconds. Another followed, exploding into shards of metal. The alien fleet froze. Their laughter was gone. Now there was only silence and fear. Inside the human dreadnought, the captain did not smile. His voice remained steady, almost emotionless. "Send the message again," he ordered. And across the stars, the words rang out once more. "This is your last journey. Leave human space, or you will not return." The alien commanders looked at each other, fear crawling into their eyes. Some wanted to retreat. Others still clung to pride. But every one of them knew the truth now. Humans were not bluffing. This was not just first contact. This was the first warning. And if they ignored it, the next step would be their end. The void between stars had always felt endless, a place where silence stretched forever. But now that silence carried a weight, heavy like a storm about to break. The alien fleet had stopped laughing. Their scanners were blind, their weapons armed but shaking with hesitation. Around them, shadows moved. Shadows too large to be rocks, too silent to be debris. Then the shadows opened their eyes. One by one, human warships came alive. Black hulls peeled out of the darkness, their outlines sharp against the stars. Some were dreadnoughts, massive like floating fortresses. Others were destroyers, lean and sharp like hunting wolves. Carriers unfolded their wings, releasing squadrons that hovered in silence. Hundreds of ships formed a ring, encircling the intruders. It was not a fleet. It was a wall, a living wall of iron and fire. On the alien flagship, panic began to spread. Officers stared at their failing screens, their voices trembling. This cannot be right. They were not here before. Hundreds. There are hundreds. They were hiding in the dark. The commander's claws dug into the arm of his chair. His pride burned like fire, but even pride could not erase the cold truth before him. The aliens had not walked into empty space. They had walked into a trap carefully laid by a species that never forgot its warnings. On the human dreadnought at the center of the ring, the captain stood still. His face was calm, his voice quiet, but every officer listened as if each word was carved in stone. "They see us now," he said. "Transmit once more." The message spread across every channel, translated into every alien tongue. "This is human space. You entered without permission. Leave now, or this will be your last journey." The words echoed inside alien bridges like a hammer. Some crew members begged their commander to retreat. Others clung to false courage. But all of them felt the truth. The humans did not bluff. On the alien ships, arguments broke out. "We cannot fight this. We must pull back. No, retreat will bring shame to our people. Better shame than death." But the commander of the invaders silenced them with a roar. His pride was stronger than reason. "We do not run. Fire at them. Show them the might of the Dominion." And so the first shots were fired. Alien cannons lit up, streaks of burning plasma tearing through space. Torpedoes launched, glowing like dying stars. The fleet poured its anger into the void, trying to break the human wall. But the wall did not break. Human shields flared bright, absorbing the fire. Human interceptors darted out, catching torpedoes mid-flight, tearing them apart before they reached their marks. The human fleet did not answer with panic. It answered with silence. Then the humans fired back. It was not wild. It was not chaotic. It was cold, precise, and merciless. Dreadnought cannons struck with beams of white fire that tore through alien cruisers in seconds. Destroyers flanked from the shadows, cutting supply ships in half. Carriers released waves of drones, small but sharp, stabbing at engines and weapons. The alien fleet was not fighting an army. They were standing inside a machine, and every piece of that machine was moving to end them. On one alien ship, the crew screamed as their engines failed, fire spilling across their decks. On another, the captain begged for reinforcements that would never come. One by one, ships fell, broken into burning fragments drifting through the void. The commander of the invaders stared in horror. His proud fleet, his unstoppable armada, was being erased like dust in a storm. He clenched his claws, his voice shaking. They were ready for us. They were always ready. Inside the human dreadnought, the captain finally allowed himself a whisper. They should have listened. No joy touched his face. No celebration filled the human bridge. To them, this was not victory. It was duty. A duty they carried every time outsiders ignored the warning. The Shadow Fleet had awakened. And once it awakened, there was no mercy. Minutes passed. Alien ships tried to break free, rushing toward the border. But wherever they turned, humans were waiting. More ships uncloaked, more shadows rose. Every escape turned into a trap. Every path led only to fire. Finally, the alien flagship stood alone, surrounded by the wreckage of its brothers. Its commander stared at the screen, his pride gone, replaced only with fear. He remembered the council's warning. He remembered the whispers in the markets. He realized too late they were not lies. A final message came from the human captain, soft and final. This is your last chance. Leave your ship, or be ended with it. The alien commander's hands shook. His fleet was gone. His people would curse him for failure. But in that moment, he understood the truth of human space. It was not territory. It was not conquest. It was a graveyard for the arrogant. And as the silence closed in once more, the galaxy learned what it meant when the Shadow Fleet awakened. The battlefield was no longer silent. It burned. Wreckage drifted across the void like broken bones of giants. Alien ships, once proud and shining, now floated in pieces, torn apart by human fire. Flames flickered even in the vacuum. Engines cracked, hulls shattered. Where the alien fleet had entered with arrogance, now only ghosts remained. But the fight was not over. The alien flagship, wounded but alive, still stood at the center. Its commander stared at the destruction around him, his face twisted between rage and disbelief. He had promised his empire victory. He had promised easy conquest. Now, all he saw were the dying screams of his fleet echoing through comm channels. On his bridge, officers shouted in panic. We have lost 70% of our ships. Our weapons are failing. Shields collapsing. The commander slammed his fist against the console. His voice was full of anger, but his eyes betrayed fear. No, we will not retreat. This is not the end. But deep inside he already knew. This was the end. Because the humans had not yet unleashed their full strength. The human dreadnought at the center of the formation remained steady. Its captain watched the battlefield with calm eyes, as if every destroyed ship was simply another mark on a chart. He gave no shouts, no roars. His orders were quiet, precise, and final. Continue the strike pattern. Leave no gaps. Do not let them escape. Around him, human officers moved with machine-like rhythm. Screens glowed with maps of destruction. Every alien ship was marked, tracked, and targeted. There was no chaos, only order. And then the next phase began. From the carriers, swarms of drones poured out. Small, fast, and merciless. They streaked across the void like 1,000 arrows. They sliced through alien hulls, tore open engines, and left trails of fire behind. For every alien shot fired, 10 drones answered. The alien fleet broke further. Frigates vanished in bursts of white light. Cruisers fell silent, their weapons cut away. Even the proudest warships collapsed under the storm. Inside the alien flagship, voices rose in terror. Sir, they are everywhere. We cannot win. Requesting permission to surrender. But the commander refused to speak of surrender. Pride chained him even as death closed in. The human captain gave his final order. His voice was quiet, but it carried like thunder across the fleet. Begin the last journey. And the humans answered. Missiles launched in perfect arcs, weaving between debris and striking their marks. Railguns spat fire, each round carving holes through alien armor. Beams of energy lanced through the void, cutting ships into pieces as if they were made of paper. It was not a battle anymore. It was an execution. The alien commander clung to his chair, his claws digging deep into the metal. His bridge shook, sparks flying from broken consoles. Officers screamed, running from fires that spread through the decks. One by one, his subordinates fell, cut down by explosions and collapsing steel. At last, he stood alone. His voice broke as he looked at the burning stars. What are they? What kind of creatures fight like this? And across his comms came the final human reply. We are the last warning. No one enters human space uninvited. This is the journey you chose. The human dreadnoughts' cannons turned toward the alien flagship. The glow of their weapons lit the bridge like the rising of a new sun. The alien commander closed his eyes, and for the first time in his life, he understood what true fear was. In the next moment, the flagship was gone. The explosion lit up the dark like a star being born. Its shockwave rippled through the wreckage, scattering debris into the cold. The last voice of the invading fleet fell silent. And with it, their journey ended. The human fleet did not cheer. There was no celebration, no cry of victory. The silence returned, heavier than before. To them, this was not conquest. It was justice. A lesson carved in fire. Trespassers would never return. On the bridge of the dreadnought, the captain finally spoke, his words recorded for history. Report to command. The intruders have been dealt with. Their last journey is complete. Across the galaxy, news would spread. Traitors, spies, and watchers would whisper the story. Another empire had tested the humans. Another empire had vanished in flames. And from that day, one truth grew sharper than ever before. Human space is not a place you enter. It is a place you never leave. The battle was over. The last alien ship had burned, leaving only broken wreckage drifting across the void. The silence of human space had returned, but it was no longer empty. It was filled with ashes, with the echoes of ships that had entered without permission. On the bridge of the human dreadnought, the crew worked quietly. No one cheered. No one celebrated. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were hard. To them, this was not victory. This was duty. The captain stood at the center, hands clasped behind his back. He looked at the holomap that showed the battlefield. Wreckage marked in red, human ships marked in blue, forming a ring around the destruction. His voice was steady as stone. Record everything, he said. Every ship destroyed. Every signal intercepted. Every word spoken. The communications officer nodded. Yes, sir. Transmission will be ready within minutes. Because this was not just the end of an invading fleet. It was the beginning of a message. A message meant not only for the dead, but for the living galaxy that watched in silence. Soon, the human fleet spread its warning. Across hundreds of channels, in every language, one simple broadcast was sent. It was not long. It was not dramatic. It was cold and final. This is human space. Intruders entered without permission. They were destroyed. Let this wreckage be the warning. No one enters uninvited. Or this will be your last journey. The message repeated again and again, carried on strong signals that traveled far beyond the rim. Civilian stations caught it. Traders carried it. Spies recorded it. Within hours, it was echoing across the galaxy. On distant worlds, alien leaders listened in silence. Some trembled. Some clenched their fists. Some swore revenge. But all of them knew the truth. Another empire had fallen trying to test the humans. In the halls of the Galactic Council, the message shook the chamber. Delegates listened to the recording as the sound of human voices filled the room. You have entered human space without invitation. You will not return. The words carried no emotion, no hatred, no boast, and that made them even more terrifying. One delegate whispered, "They speak like executioners." Another muttered, "Not executioners. Guardians. Guardians of death." The scarred elder counselor, the one who had warned them before, lowered his head. "I told you, they do not fight for glory. They fight because it is their oath. And their oath is simple: trespassers do not leave." The chamber fell into heavy silence. No one argued. No one laughed. Beyond the council, common people across the galaxy also spoke of the warning. In markets, in ports, in shadowed taverns, the story spread faster than fire. They destroyed the Dominion fleet in hours. Hundreds of ships gone, like they never existed. Human space is cursed. Enter and you die. Fear spread. Even pirates, the bold thieves of the stars, began to redraw their maps, keeping their routes far from human borders. Merchant captains refused to trade near Earth systems. Even curious explorers, who once dreamed of mapping every star, began to skip the human sectors. But not everyone believed. In dark corners of the galaxy, proud warlords spat at the warning. They are not gods, one growled. They can bleed. We will break them one day. Yet even he, when his fleet planned its routes, drew his line wide around human space. Pride was easy in words, but fear lived in the heart. Back on the human dreadnought, the captain gave his final order. Transmit the final signal. Leave the wreckage at the border. Let it speak for us. And so the broken hulls of the alien fleet were left to drift, burning like torches at the edge of human space. They would not be cleared. They would not be buried. They would remain, a permanent warning carved into the stars. Anyone who looked upon that border would see the truth. Trespassers had entered, and none had returned. The human fleet then turned quietly, vanishing back into the dark. Their ships cloaked once more, their presence fading into silence. To outsiders, it was as if the humans had disappeared. But the message remained. And from that day, a new shadow spread across the galaxy. A shadow not of conquest, not of empire, but of fear. The humans had spoken, and the stars had listened. No one enters human space uninvited, unless they are asking for their last journey. The wreckage remained. At the border of human space, broken ships drifted like frozen skeletons. They did not move. They did not burn away. They stayed as a warning carved into the silence of the stars. Every passing trader who came too close saw them. Every spy who dared to scan the border recorded them. The message was clear. Those who entered uninvited did not return. And slowly that message became legend. On distant worlds, children whispered the story as though it were a ghost tale. They drew pictures of giant human ships in the sand, speaking of how one voice could silence an empire. Some trembled at the story, others felt awe, but none doubted it. In the marketplaces of the galaxy, merchants passed the tale between drinks. The Dominion fleet, they said, wiped out in a single night. Their voices dropped lower when they spoke of the humans. They never boasted. They never roared. They just ended it. Quiet, cold, final. Even pirates, once fearless, avoided human sectors. Star maps were redrawn, trade lanes twisted, explorers charted new paths. All of them curved wide around the black frontier where humans lived. To cross that line was not bravery. It was suicide. In the halls of the Galactic Council, the fear was heavier. Delegates no longer laughed when the topic of humans was raised. Their meetings became silent whenever Earth was named. Some wanted to speak of peace treaties, but no one dared approach. No one wanted to risk being mistaken for intruders. The scarred elder counselor spoke once more, his voice like stone. The humans are not conquerors. They do not want your worlds. They only guard their own. And they guard them with silence and fire. Respect this or be erased. No one argued. No one dared. Back on Earth, life went on as normal. Cities bustled, children played, workers built new ships, and leaders spoke of defense rather than conquest. The humans did not see themselves as legends. To them, it was simple. No one entered their home without asking. If someone did, they answered. And their answer was always final. But in the galaxy, the silence grew into something larger. It became fear, yes, but also respect. Some even called it reverence. Whole species whispered the new law. Do not cross the human border. Do not test their silence. For silence hides the shadow fleet. Generals remembered the Dominion's fall and chose safer targets. Warlords dreamed of glory but kept their fleets away from Earth. Even the most arrogant rulers paused when they planned their wars, their thoughts returning always to the same line. Not human space. Legends grew. Some said humans had ships the size of moons, hidden in the void. Others swore that human weapons could shatter stars. A few whispered that humans were not mortals at all, but something older, something awakened when trespassers disturbed their home. None of those legends were proven. None needed to be. The wreckage at the border was proof enough. And so the galaxy changed. Borders shifted. Routes bent. The stars themselves seemed to draw a circle around Earth. A circle no one dared to cross. On the bridge of the human dreadnought, the captain stood once more, looking out at the drifting wreckage. His crew worked quietly, preparing to depart. One young officer finally spoke, her voice soft. "Sir, will they come again?" The captain's gaze did not waver. "Yes, sooner or later someone always does." "Then what will we do?" she asked. He turned, his eyes steady as iron. "The same thing we always do. We remind them, this is our space. And no one enters uninvited." The officer nodded, her face calm now. She understood. The fleet turned slowly, engines lighting up the void. One by one, the ships vanished back into the dark, leaving the wreckage behind. The silence returned once more. But it was not empty. It was heavy, filled with the weight of a legend that would never die. Across the galaxy, empires rose and fell. Wars came and went. But one truth remained, etched into every mind, whispered in every shadow. No one enters human space uninvited, unless they are asking for their last journey. And so the legend of the humans lived on, carried not by songs, not by triumph, but by silence. A silence that stretched across the stars, stronger than any fleet, sharper than any weapon. The silence of a people who did not seek war, but who ended every trespass with finality. The silence that had become the galaxy's greatest warning. The silence that would never be broken.